back to Fandom from Afar. Today's guest is Eric, who's one of the biggest Jaguar fans that I know. So welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Brian.
So Eric has a unique story, and many of you know that I live in Jacksonville, so you're probably wondering, like, hey, that doesn't count. That's not Fandom from Afar. But we'll learn in Eric's story that he has had to be a Jaguar fan all over the country. So let's start out first with your origin story, because what year did the Jag start?
Yeah, we got the team in 95.
95, okay.
And that was our first season, the 95 season. So I was in middle school, and I remember it being all over the papers, all over the news. I mean, I remember the radio. I mean, everything. It was like the whole city, everything was buzzing. And I wasn't old enough to appreciate how big of a deal it was. You know, if you'd have asked me then, how many NFL teams are there, I would have had no idea. I mean, I knew the big ones, but then, you know, when you got to actually see the team on the field and playing real games, then it starts to really sink in. See, I was a middle school student, so get to go to a couple games in middle school. Then, you know, when I'm in high school, go to more games and just really start to, like, by the time the Jaguars had that first real good team, you know, 96 made the playoffs, but then really that 98, 99, 2000, that was like my high school years. And so
what a perfect time.
Yeah, having success as I'm like, it's a new team. I'm a high school student. I mean, it was like, it really like just sealed that fandom. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned those early teams. One of my saddest moments as a Bronco fan was because of the Jaguars. What year was that? 97?
That was 96.
96?
It was 97 was the playoff game.
Sure.
In January of 97, yeah.
I had never been more sad. We had such a dominant team, and you guys just come in and...
Who was the guy, the sports writer that's on the show... on the ESPN show. He used to be the sports writer for Denver.
It was Woody Page.
Yes, Woody Page. And he just ripped the Jaguars. He called them the Jaguads.
Yeah.
Remember? And man, our whole city took that so personally. And I mean, you know, you never know if you're going to win the game or not. But I tell you what, I think if he hadn't written that article, we might not have won that game.
Oh, I think bulletin board material is real.
Yes. But yes, that was just an epic playoff run to be a second-year team and beat the Broncos, who were supposed to, you know, be the best team that year.
Yeah, because we went on to win the next 2 Super Bowls. So everyone in Denver thinks it should have been 3 in a row, if not for the Jags.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was it. That was, man, come to life as a Jaguar fan, get to see like those miracle wins in the playoffs.
And again, being a teenager at the time, what a perfect way to hook you in for life when you have moments like that right away as a new team.
Exactly. I mean, that was huge. Yeah. And then, of course, you know, we have a lot of bad history after those good years.
Oh,
so we could talk about
the last 20 years. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Well, good. So you were a teenager. They had some success. And then maybe what was it like college, young adult? Like what has it been during kind of the lean years for you?
Yeah. So, you know, we had like interim success here and there. You know, you think about the Jags, you know, you think Mark Brunell, Jimmy Smith, Fred Taylor, and that was like the golden days of original Jaguar football. And then we didn't have that much of a drop off. You know, they let go Tom Coughlin, Jack Del Rio comes in, and they draft Byron Leftwich, and he has some initial success. They're not like the best team in the NFL, but made the playoffs. And then there's some doubting going on there. And then they get David Garrard and they cut Byron, and David Garrard had success. We go to the playoffs with Garrard. And so there was that stretch where we were still relevant after the Mark Brunell, Jimmy Smith, Fred Taylor days, relevant for another 5-8 years before the big drop off. So that was my college. You know, my college was, I remember getting off work at the restaurant and running home to see them play the Steelers in the playoffs, you know, prime time. David Garrard, you know, scrambling on 4th down for 30 yards.
That was what stuck out for me too. I was like, for some reason that play, like I just remember it for some reason.
Yeah. So, you know, by the time I was college student, got married, started, you know, married life and adulthood, you know, the Jags were still relevant for a while. And really, they really took their downturn right around the time I was leaving Jacksonville, you know, 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into that a little bit. You first moved to Alabama, is that correct?
So we ended up in Alabama. We moved around a little bit first. So, I had this position where it was temporary travel. So I'd do a couple months here, a couple months there. So we spent time in South Carolina. We spent time in South Texas. Spent time. And then we ended up spending 3 years in Alabama.
That's right.
Where nobody cares about pro football.
Yeah.
You couldn't find a Jaguars game when you tried, except occasionally they would pick up the Tennessee market, which is our rival, the Titans. So yeah, you could find the games there, but it was like you still love the team just as much, but back in those days, I mean, I didn't have the money to pay for DirecTV or whatever and Sunday Ticket was on at that time, and so you just hope to you follow the team on the radio, you follow the team as best you can from a distance on the internet, but it wasn't like now. I mean, now you've got
so much harder.
YouTube channels, you've got podcasts, you've got everything. And so, I'm following from through my dad. I'd call my dad up. I'm like, what's the Jaguar news, but I'd still do everything I could to watch the games on Sunday.
Yeah.
Just, they weren't always on because we weren't a good team.
Yeah. And it's tough because it's so hard for people to think about that now because there are so many options, but that would have been extremely hard, especially in that market when it's not something that they're prioritizing on the TVs, even if you do go out to a sports bar or something.
Yeah, no, that's right. You'd have to go to a sports bar and know that they were going to play the game, or else you're wasting your time. We were when we lived in Texas for about a year, everybody in Texas is a Cowboys fan. But now you have Houston that came in, after the Oilers left and came back as the Texans. You'd get the Houston games on because we were in South Texas, pretty close to Houston, a couple hours away from Houston. So when the Jags played Houston, another division rival, I would always get to watch those games.
So that kind of works out that you were in both of their division cities.
And then Alabama really was so weird. I mean, literally, people do not care about pro football.
It's all about the Tide.
It's all about Alabama or it's all about Auburn, one of the two. And you're either Alabama or you're Auburn. And pro football is like a joke. And I'm like, where are the pro football fans here?
Yeah.
And occasionally I'd bump into another friend who, was followed their team from wherever. Huntsville is similar to Jacksonville, a big military town. There's a big base there. A lot of people from all over end up in Huntsville. And so you'd have a lot of people that liked the popular teams, the 49ers, the Packers, or the Giants, or whoever it was. But you could not find a Jags fan there.
I was going to say, did you ever find one random Jags fan and you guys would get together and watch the games?
It's funny you say that. I met one guy from Jacksonville, and he was a Jags fan, and we would get together and watch football occasionally. But I guarantee you most people there don't even know the Jaguars are a real NFL team.
Yeah.
If we were, the pedigree of the Cowboys or whatever, then pro football maybe carries a little more weight,
or they get them mixed up with other teams like the Panthers or something like that.
Yeah.
I experienced that a lot with the Nuggets, where people always get as confused with the Jazz or the Pacers or something like that. They're just like, oh yeah, that team out there somewhere.
Team out there in the wet Mountain West. Yeah. So really, when I was in Alabama, I remember there were certain events that happened. Like that's when the initial owner, Wayne Weaver, sold the team. And so that was all over the news, national news, because this is a big deal when somebody sells an NFL team. And then, of course, they hired Mike Mularkey as the head coach. And that was like, what are we doing? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
I know he had been a head coach once before, but it just seemed like weird all around. And they start signing all these free agents that nobody's heard of. And it's just this ragtag team. And then, of course, that ushered in the Blaine Gabbert era, the Gus Bradley era, and of course Blake Bortles, which if there was anybody that you wanted to see get a shot at success, you got to root for Blake. And we were able to see a little bit of that in 2017. But yeah, really 2010, we moved back to Jacksonville in 2015. That was a dark decade for Jaguar football.
Even though the team wasn't good for you personally, though, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air actually being around other fans, though. So at least you got to talk about the team.
Yeah, that people in the business say a bad team's just as good for media as a good team, because people like to gripe and complain, and it makes for good radio or good TV.
Much easier to complain, and everybody thinks that they know best and what'll fix the issues and stuff. Yeah. We are definitely experiencing that with the 1-5 Broncos right now.
Ooh, the Broncos. It's amazing. Nobody would have guessed Russell Wilson would have been that bad. I mean, some people maybe in Seattle when he left, and then Sean Payton. He just come in kind of with such pedigree. You're like, he has to turn it around. And again, maybe he will. But not what a rough start. Ooh.
Well, you talked about your dark period for the Jags. We're hoping we can find our Trevor Lawrence and start seeing some success like you guys.
Well, all right. The NFL and the whole NIL stuff is so outrageous. I saw the story. You probably saw it. That Caleb Williams says he wants partial ownership in whatever team drafts him.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, my goodness.
Like, get out of here. You haven't even played a snap in the NFL yet, and you want partial ownership of whatever team you play for?
That's wild. Is he going to demand a trade if the team says they're not going to do it?
Everything that I've seen, you would think he's the guy that's going to do that. Yes.
Wow.
We haven't seen that since who? Since Eli Manning? First overall pick that's like, nope, not going to play for your team. It's been a long time since anybody's been that way.
Yeah, he did it, and then I can't complain because John Elway did it. That's how the Broncos got him.
Right. Yep.
Oh, man, now I've been dying for the Broncos to tank. Now I'm just like, what if we finally get the worst record, and then he's like, nah.
Caleb Williams, who knows? I don't know. I don't watch USC games. He could be Justin Fields. Everybody was high on Justin Fields when they beat Clemson in the playoffs a few years ago, and Justin Fields looked better than Trevor Lawrence.
Or how high was everyone on Mac Jones like 2 years ago?
Right. From everything that I hear, Caleb Williams is a different type of guy. But then you see like somebody like C.J. Stroud, who from the outside looking in is, I don't watch Ohio State football either, except when they're in the big games. He looks like he's going to be a bust. And look at him. He's doing so good.
It. Yeah.
Which I hate because, not for him, but I hate the Texans. So,
true.
Naturally, a division rival.
Deal with him for the next 10 years.
Yes, but happy for him. Hate the fact that he's playing good because that means, yeah.
Now, well, you guys got your guy, and I think he's legit. Do you think that this team, what is their record now? 4-2?
4-2.
Do you think they have what it takes to a AFC Championship game or first Super Bowl ever?
I do think so. And the reason I think that is because of what the team went through last year. The team is almost 100% intact from last year. And so that team went to the playoffs, won that miracle comeback game against San Diego, against the LA Chargers.
Oh, yeah.
And then went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, and ended up losing by 2 scores. But that game was closer than it felt because there's a late turnover. So I think the team has the confidence. I clearly see a team that's capable of beating whoever they play. It's just a matter, it always is. Do you come out and play your best? And does the other team come out and play their best? Because, I would not, if I were putting money on it, in a Jags-Chiefs, as much as I love the Jags, I'd still put money on the Chiefs because Mahomes, until you prove it that you can beat him, like the dude just figures it out.
I don't know how he does it. I thought they were going to really struggle without Tyreek Hill, but he's just like, nah, I don't care. I'll just throw it to 7 different other guys.
Yeah. So I think the Jags definitely can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. And if it ends up being all the way to the AFC Championship, hey, anybody's got a chance at that point. But you look at the rest of the AFC this year, we beat Buffalo, made them look like a bad team. Mm-hmm. And of course you're a Buffalo fan. You're like, oh, it was the turf. It was London. It was blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, we just played better than you. And we, they made the Bills look bad. We play the Bengals later this year. So we'll see if they're for real. They seem to be coming back after the bad start.
And Buffalo beat Miami, who's like one of the best teams. And so,
yeah, Miami is, you got to watch out for them. They're insane with the amount of points they're putting up. So, yeah, you never know. The division is, the conference is strong. There's lots of good teams, but I do think the Jaguars are as capable as any of those teams. And if we find a home game in the playoffs or I mean, only one team gets a bye now. I really don't see us getting the bye.
See, I kind of do. Just the division is so weak.
Yeah.
You guys should win every division game. Well, you already lost the Houston game. But
yeah.
I think there's a possibility you end up as the 1 seed and then you're getting to go to some playoff games.
Yes. So, and I would think that if the season hadn't played out the way it has already, because you'd have thought, oh, well, the Chiefs are going to have to play the Chargers this year and the Broncos are going to give them a fight. And then you look at the Raiders, and it's like they all stink, and the Chiefs are going to coast all the way to that bye again and have the AFC Championship game.
That's true. They're probably thinking the same thing. They're like, oh, we're going to win every division game.
Yeah. So I would have thought that going into the year because everybody's high on the Chargers and the Broncos are going to come back. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs just make it look easy against everybody.
I still think you guys got a shot.
Well, thank you. We'll take all the optimism. And believe me, in my heart, I'm as optimistic as they come. I believe we can do it. And, you know, we're never going to get the credit or respect as a bigger national brand. But I think we perform the best when people like to hate on us. People like to underestimate the Jags, hate on the Jags. We always play better. Anytime we start getting some street cred, we tank.
Yeah. They're like, ooh, we don't like this. Get out of here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, hey, if the Jaguars make it 2024 Super Bowl, this season, I'm going to Vegas.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
That'll be awesome. You got to do it because who knows? It might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. I will be there.
Nice. I like it. Now, let's kind of rewind a little bit. When the Jags were first introduced and announced, was your family really into it too? Or was it kind of just you and your buddies that got into it? Like, did the Jaguars become a family event on Sundays?
Yeah, it did it to a certain extent. My dad, I think, was into the Jags pretty early on. And, you know, because they had success, I think it kind of roped in my mom a little bit. But we were never season ticket holders or anything like that. And I think Sundays were, yeah, we'll watch it if it works out. And so I think it was really more of like a couple buddies and I that would just, get together, watch the games, or one of my friends' dads got tickets through work and he'd take me to the game. And one of the seasons, I think it was the 96 season where we, snuck into the playoffs there. I think I went to almost all the home games, sat in the club seats with my friend. And yeah, I mean, that was really it wasn't so much that my whole family was, but it was a good enough, there was a good enough embrace of the team from my family, from the city, that as you start to see that little success, everybody just starts to get on board.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've kind of carried that on with your kids now. You're taking them to the games and kind of making it special bonding time for everybody.
Last year, I'll tell you what, so, living outside of, it's really hard to get your kids to be fans of the team when you don't live in the market.
Oh, yeah.
So like when my boys were little and I dressed them up in Jaguar stuff, but they don't see anybody else wearing Jaguar stuff, and the Jaguars aren't even that good, like, fat chance of them becoming Jags fans. Well, then, we moved back to Jacksonville 2015, so we're back in town, able to go to the games together. But still, like, when you don't win, little boys want a winner. They don't want to follow a sorry team. So it's tough.
Especially when everyone around them's talking about how amazing Alabama is and all that stuff. They're like, why would I care about the Jaguars?
Well, and you see it on TV and you're like, oh, Tom Brady, he's a winner. And then your kid turns around and is like, I like the Patriots. Like, no, you don't.
You will not live in this house.
Yeah. So last year, I took the boys to the Ravens game where we came back from like 17 points, won the game on a 2-point conversion.
Nice.
I took them to the Cowboys game. We were also down 17 points, won it in overtime on a pick six. So we were there to witness those live. And then, of course, we were there for the playoff game.
Yeah.
Down 27-0 in the bitter cold. I mean, as cold as Jacksonville's ever been. I mean, one of the coldest football games I've ever been to in Jacksonville, Florida. And 27-0. We huddle up. I'm there with my wife and my 2 sons. I huddle up at 27-0, and I look at them like, hey, we were here for the Cowboys. We were here for the Ravens. We came back. We can do this. Don't give up.
I love it.
This is our home playoff game. We are not abandoning this team. And then, I mean, to see that epic comeback, I mean, yes, like they are going to be fans for life.
Oh yeah,
because of that. Though that series of events, 3 games in a row of just like edge of your seat, epic comebacks, and then making it to playoffs. I mean, that was awesome.
Well, even just having one of those games, let alone 3, but just I guarantee you to feel the energy in the stadium, that they've never experienced anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Unreal. I mean, the way that stadium came to life in that playoff game, you saw it was halftime. I think we got a touchdown right before halftime. So it was 27-7. And you see, the cynicism of some fans are grumbling, "Oh, we're leaving." And I'm like, no.
Yeah. I've seen it before.
I've had in my lifetime of being able to purchase tickets and go to the game, 2 home playoff games.
So it didn't matter what the
we
score
are
was.
not leaving.
It just happened to work out like a Disney movie.
This team is almost 30 years old, and there's been an opportunity to go to 2 home playoff games. Like, we are staying.
Can you imagine the regret driving home, listening to it or something, and then realizing you just missed one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history? Oh, that'd be so sad.
I couldn't live with myself.
Oh, it'd be so sad. But you got to experience it.
Yep.
Now, during those dark days, one of the big rumors, well, it was a national rumor, I don't think it was actually true, was that the Jaguars are going to move to London. Obviously, that didn't happen, and I don't think it's going to happen. But they have been playing London games, and you just got back from one.
Yeah.
So I actually haven't seen you since you got back from London, so I'm genuinely interested. Like, tell me about the London experience.
Yeah. So, those rumors have been around ever since. Jacksonville's a small market. Jacksonville's been a bad team. And so, of course, they're going to be the butt of all the jokes or the rumors. And then when you sign a 10-year contract to give up a home game, you only get 8 home games. Well, now you could have 9, but you only get 8, and then you give up 1 every year for 10 years. What are people to think?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, from a business standpoint, Shad Khan's making so much money on that London game that he can actually improve the Jacksonville amenities and stadium because of the money he's making over there. I think anybody who really understands it sees that.
I think the other owners are probably so jealous they didn't do the same thing.
Well, and from a fan standpoint, you're like, why on earth would you ever give up a home game? And I get that. It makes sense. But it's a neutral site game. It's not like you're giving up a home game for an away game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think truly the Jags, so my London experience, I was there, went to the game at Wembley when they played the Falcons this season. It was incredible, the amount of Jags fans. Now, I'm telling you, 95% of that stadium was Europeans, British, other European countries that were there for the game. But they were all wearing Jags fan stuff. I mean, you could represent every single NFL team. My boys and I got off the subway. We took the subway from downtown London to Wembley Stadium. You get off and there's like 50,000 people out in the lawn in front of Wembley Stadium, and everything is teal.
That's cool.
All the Jags merch is sold out. You could buy Falcon stuff for days, but all the Jags merch is sold out and we got there like 3 hours before the game. But you look around, you're like, oh, there's a Cowboys jersey, there's a Packers jersey, there's a 49ers jersey. And I said to my boys, like, let's see how long it takes us to count all 32 teams' jerseys. And it took about 5 minutes. That's how long it took.
Really?
Because it's so diverse. I mean, London typically gets 1 to 2 games a year.
Yeah, so
period.
They spread out the teams.
It's usually the Jags. But so if you're a NFL fan and you live anywhere in Europe and you can take a train or a quick flight to England instead of coming all the way to the U.S., you're just wearing your Packers jersey because you're a Packers fan, but you want to go watch American football. Well, but even that said, like, there was so many Jags fans there. And it was really cool to see. I mean, it legitimately felt like a home game.
That's
cool. The stadium, everything inside the stadium, they made teal and white and black. There's, posters the size of the stadium from floor to ceiling of Jaguars players, like printed out, for one game.
Yeah, so they didn't really cut costs. They legit tried to make it.
Yeah, and all the Jaguars the in-game stadium stuff, like the videos, the little clips that they play to like pump up the crowd. They had all the same stuff. It literally felt like a Jaguars home game.
That's cool.
And now you're in Wembley Stadium and everything's red there. So besides the seats being red instead of teal, it felt like a Jaguars home game.
That's really cool.
And you look at like London alone, and this is not all of England. This is not even, scratch the surface of Europe. London has 12 million people in it. Jacksonville has like 1 million. You think about the opportunity to sell merch, to grow your fan base in a country that has no other option, right? Like, it's genius to me from a marketing standpoint.
Oh, yeah. And especially as they're getting to know the game, now all of a sudden you guys are becoming good.
Mm-hmm.
And so more and more people are hopping on that bandwagon, and it literally, you'll own a whole continent.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this story. We were, there was a lids store, like the hat store, clothing and shoes and stuff, that was hosting a meet and greet with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and Tony Baselli. And I found it on like the Jaguars London homepage or whatever. Hey, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Saturday before the game, come to Lids, meet the players. So I'm like, we should totally do that. This is awesome. There won't be anybody there. Yeah. So we go to this little town called Camden. It's like a little shopping district, suburb of London. And we get off the subway there, and we see the Lids, and I see a line, like no kidding, that's like a mile long.
Really?
And every single person in that line's got their Jaguar jersey on. And I look at my watch or look at my phone. I'm like, there's no way we're getting in there in an hour. Like the event's only an hour. So we get in the back of the line, and we made it all the way. I think we were literally like the last 5 people they let in.
Oh, really? You did make it
actually get in. And then they were like, we're closing. You only get 1 autograph. So I was like, looked at my son. I'm like, whose autograph do you want? He's like, I want Christian Kirk. So we bought a t-shirt and he got Christian Kirk's autograph. But it was insane. I mean, there was, other tourists walking up and down these streets, and they're like, what are y'all in line for? What is this? And I was just like proud to say, like, it's the Jaguars, American football. And they're like, oh yeah. And,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing, I'm assuming you talked to some people in line, and they were probably mostly European.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know how many fans travel to the game, but it's a very small percentage, of the total attendance there. I think they had 85,000 people at Wembley.
Oh, yeah.
You figure the Jag Stadium at capacity is like 72. And so out of those 85,000 that were there, I mean, maybe 5 to 10 were like Americans.
Yeah, if that. It just seems like a lot for us because we know so many diehards that they are the ones that always go. But yeah. That's so cool. I didn't know the whole atmosphere was like that, and they had accepted the Jaguars so much just because like you assume that some people did, but that's really cool to hear so many have. It
blew my mind. I was like, this is so cool. It's literally like a second home for your team. And these people they've never even been to Jacksonville, I mean, most of them.
And do they get to watch most of the games on TV? Like, do they have a pretty easy way to watch them?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. My guess is they don't, but
they keep up with them anyway.
Yeah. And there, it was the whole city was just buzzing with Jaguar fever. It was really cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
Would you say the whole experience was like you enjoyed it enough that you're going to do it again, or was it just kind of like, oh, that was nice to do, but I don't know if I'll necessarily make a point to go to Europe just for the Jaguar game?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of expense and all that, but it was a mountaintop experience.
Absolutely.
For sure. And it was fun we took the whole family, the kids got to experience it. Here's the funny thing that I would have never guessed. You could not buy a Coca-Cola at that stadium.
Oh, really?
You could buy a Coke Zero. You could buy any kind of draft beer you wanted, because everybody knows they drink a lot of beer in England, but you couldn't buy a regular Coke. And I went to 10 different concession stands. Like, you have Coke here? Coke Zero. I'm like, I don't want Coke Zero.
Yeah, you're like, give me that sugar.
Apparently London, I'm just guessing this has some sort of regulation where they don't sell sugared beverages of a certain size at venues, which just blew my mind.
Yeah, so that's so different from here, but
don't tell me I can't have a Coke at a football game. But no, we can buy Coke Zero.
That's funny. I would have never guessed. You would have thought they would have been just trying to make money any way they can.
Right. Yeah. But, it was that stadium at Wembley, you can tell that's the national team of England. Is super nice. The nicest stadium I've ever been to.
Until you go to the Super Bowl to watch the Jags in Las Vegas.
I haven't been to that new stadium in Vegas yet. I haven't been to a lot of NFL stadiums, but.
Well, that's cool. I missed my chance last year when the Jags were playing the Broncos, but it'll cycle back around. I'm sure I'll eventually get to check that off the bucket list sometime.
Yeah, it was a great trip. London is a really cool place. So.
That's cool. Well, that's definitely a diehard thing. All right, so let's kind of wrap it up by playing some games.
All right.
Normally I do kind of like silly games and just having fun, but I think you're very, very knowledgeable about your team. So mine's more trivia based this time.
Let's see.
All right. Well, we'll start off easy. This one you can't get wrong. What jerseys have you owned? I'm always fascinated by jersey buyers, and I know I've seen you in a few jerseys.
Yeah. So, to be honest, I'm not a big jersey person. I don't know that I owned any jerseys until a few years ago. So if I had to guess, my first Jaguar jersey, and this will sound crazy, was Gardner Minshew.
Oh, really? So recently.
And it was just like you had to root for Gardner Minshew. You knew your team was not going to be good, but he comes in with the mullet and the jorts, and I'm like, yes, this guy gets Jacksonville.
That's hilarious.
And I got a Gardner Minshew jersey. Really just kind of for fun, back in the day, there's a chance I might have had oh gosh, I can't even get the guy's name, the Oklahoma State wide receiver.
Blackman.
I might have had a Blackman jersey because, man, we were high on him and he had such potential.
He was supposed to be a beast.
Yeah. So thinking back, I might have had a Blackman jersey. And then, what's funny is that year that Gardner Minshew came in and he got hurt, we played Cody Kessler as quarterback, and I bought a Cody Kessler jersey just for the jokes.
Yeah.
Because this guy is going to play all of one game for the Jags in his whole career.
I'm shocked they even had jerseys for him.
Yeah, it was a hard one to find. But
that's hilarious.
And then I have a Trevor Lawrence jersey too now. So
there you go. That one's not a joke.
There you go.
Very good. See,
now my kids had a Leonard Fournette. The boys, I'd bought a Leonard Fournette jersey. Blake Bortles. Now they have Trevor Lawrence, Trayvon Walker. So yeah,
you're grooming some young jersey wearers.
That's right.
I like it. Now, just thinking about the Jags, I know it seems like y'all have had some really good skill position players. So I kind of wanted to see what your all-time Jags team would be. So if you had to, we're only going to do offense, but set your quarterback, one running back. Let's do 3 wide receivers and a tight end.
All right. So quarterback, as much as I do respect Mark Brunell, it's got to be Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, interesting. He's already made it there for you.
Yeah. Again, you're projecting out his future here, but the talent that he has is just off the charts, and you know that he's going to be your guy. And so, yeah, Mark Brunell played for us. I don't know how many seasons, 6, somewhere in that ballpark. If they pay Trevor, he'll be a Jaguar for 20 years.
Yeah.
Unless he has a terrible injury or something. They won't ever let him go. So it's got to be Trevor Lawrence's quarterback.
If he wins a Super Bowl, he'll just own Jacksonville for the rest of his life.
Yes.
It'll be his city.
Royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Running back's got to be Fred Taylor.
Yep.
Mojo was incredible.
I was going to say, you kind of had 2 options there.
Yeah, but it's got to be Fred Taylor. Fred Taylor's ability, and he doesn't get the respect he deserves because he played for the Jags. But, he was fast, dynamic, ran people over. And I think he will get in the Hall of Fame. I know they're trying to make a push, but I think he'll be the second Jaguar in the Hall of Fame after Baselli. So, yeah, running back would be Fred Taylor. If I were doing an honorable mention for fullback, it'd be Greg Jones.
Oh, yeah. He was awesome.
He was so great for us for so many years as a secondary back.
There you go. We'll add him in. He's on there.
So wide receiver, you have to go Jimmy Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to think about it because the combo of Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell is hard to separate. And we haven't ever really had a true number one since Jimmy Smith.
He was amazing.
Yeah, I mean Blackman was that for just a flash, but he had Blaine Gabbert as his quarterback. It wasn't going to happen. So wide receivers, all-time Jaguar team. Yeah, I mean there were so many bad ones, so many wasted,
so many highly
picks.
drafted.
R.J. Soward was drafted, second overall or whatever, top 5. Forget exactly where he was drafted. Played like half a season and then was a bust. And then we had you remember when we drafted the quarterback from, what was it, Arkansas or something, Matt Jones?
Oh yeah,
as a receiver.
Changed him to receiver just because he was such a good athlete.
I mean, that was a disaster.
And then he really liked drugs.
And so did Justin Blackman, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what happened. So, yeah, our history of receivers is ooh. I mean,
that's true. We might need to just cut it down to 2 all-time greats.
I hate to be a victim of the present, but I would probably say Christian Kirk along with Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking, too.
There's other guys, like Allen Hurns had a good season. Allen Robinson had a good season, but they didn't have enough good seasons.
Yeah. It was kind of flash in the pan.
Yeah.
And then tight end?
Tight end. I probably have to say Kyle Brady. And again, I'm going back to the early days of the Jaguars.
Again, I was thinking you had 2 choices because it was either him or Mercedes.
Yeah, and that's true. Mercedes Lewis had the tenure for sure. I mean, 10 years, I think, with the Jags?
And he's still playing. He's like my age.
Yeah, and if he had been more utilized as an offensive weapon, he had a phenomenal start. I think his rookie year, he had 10 touchdowns or something. And then he essentially just became a blocking tight end until the very end of his tenure with the Jaguars. The year that we went to the AFC Championship 2017 season, they started utilizing him as a weapon. And I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah, really. Just waiting 15 years to pull it out.
Yeah, I mean, it would be close between Kyle Brady and Mercedes because Mercedes was really beloved by Jags fans.
I like the Kyle Brady pick, though, because I remember him. He was really good.
Yeah, and just super likable, dominant, and was with us during our golden years, so it's hard not to pick him.
I like it. I like the addition of Greg Jones in there, too. All right, and this last game is called Not Just Another Guy, as some people refer to as a Jag.
Yeah.
We'll start with QBs first. So you have 3 options. You can either pick Brunell, Garrard, or Lawrence. Each question will have one of those guys as the answer.
Okay.
All right. So first one. He was a NCAA and Super Bowl champion.
Mark Brunell.
Good job. I was hoping you would get.
He won with the
up.
Saints.
Yep, absolutely.
I remember that.
And next one. He won 41 straight games in high school.
It's got to be Trevor Lawrence. Maybe not.
You got to be correct. All right. Next one. Who out of the 3 has the most career rushing yards? They're all kind of pretty good scramblers.
Yeah, definitely couldn't be Trevor because he's too early on in his career. As much as Garrard was the beast of a runner, but Brunell was sneaky fast. I'm going to say Brunell.
3 for 3. You're doing good. All right, this one is just totally random. Who was born on Valentine's Day?
Oh, gosh. I do not know the answer to that one.
Ruin the perfect streak.
I'm going to just say David Garrard.
You're good. You're very good. Very good. And then who has the most wins as a Jaguar?
It's got to be Brunell.
It is Brunell. I looked it up. I think Brunell had 64. Garrard was at 44, which was surprising. Yeah. I didn't realize he won that many games.
A couple good seasons.
And then Trevor's at 16 right now.
Yeah, I mean,
just because they've had
Trevor's start was not great.
1 and 2 win seasons.
Brunell, you got to remember, Brunell had a 14-2 season.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it had a couple years where we were a dominant team. So yeah, he racked up. People forget about it because he wasn't Hall of Famer quarterback, but he led that team for a few good years.
Oh, they were a fun offense. All right, your quarterbacks, very good, very good. And we'll do running backs. As we said, 2 options for great running backs: Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew. So this running back, we'll start with an easy one, is 17th all time in rushing yards.
Fred Taylor.
There you go. I just had to throw that in because fans like me, I'd have no
17th.
idea he was that high up. Like out of all the running backs that I've ever played,
Well, that's right. And that's why I say he's going to make the Hall of Fame.
I think he has to with that many yards.
How many running backs are in the Hall of Fame? Probably 50.
Yeah.
And how could you not take in a guy who's top 17 all time?
And you kind of mentioned it before real quick, but I think it's totally true. If he would have played for the Jets or the Cowboys or someone, he would be in already.
He would, yeah.
So I was just shocked. I had to throw that in there because I was like, whoa, he had a lot of yards. All right. Which running back only made one Pro Bowl?
Yeah, Maurice Jones-Drew had a year where he was the rushing leader, and he had some other dynamic years, so he might have made two. I'm gonna say Fred because the guys, his contemporaries, just had that. It was Curtis Martin, it was Terrell Owens, Terrell Davis, not Terrell Owens, Eddie George. I mean, those guys just got all the accolades, even though Fred Taylor was just as good or better, in my opinion. So I'm gonna say Fred only made one.
You are right. I tried to trick you on that one after talking about how awesome he is on the first one. Yeah. I was like, oh, there's no way he only made one Pro Bowl. But apparently the competition was stiff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who had more yards in their very last year of their career? Fred being with the Patriots and Maurice Jones-Drew being with the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I did not follow them after they left.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Mojo had more yards with the Raiders because I remember him having some success there.
Your perfect streak came to an end. Oh, Fred Taylor. It was just barely. They both only had not that many yards. It was time for them to be done. All right, last one. You really can't get this one wrong. Who is a better commentator /
analyst?
Analyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that word eventually. Analyst on their respective networks / Fred doing the halftime at the Jags games.
I think Mojo's great at being on NFL Network and the stuff that he does. Now he was, I don't know if he still is, like the color analyst for the Rams.
Oh, okay.
Because he lives out in LA. But so I don't like that. But Fred, Fred's got his niche, but he's not my favorite guy on radio. Again, all due respect, I love the guy.
Yeah.
But Mojo he's got that colorful personality, he's enthusiastic tone, all that kind of stuff.
Well, very good. That's what I would have said too. So I'll count that as right as well. Well, you killed the trivia section. You've gone to London. You got faith in the team to win the Super Bowl. I think you're officially a diehard fan. Well, we'll have you back on once Jags are in the playoff and they're about to go to that Super Bowl.
Let's do it.
But for now, let's get you out of here so you can go watch them dominate on some Thursday night football.
We better win this game.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Brad.